Lu Ling and I celebrated our golden wedding anniversary, 50 years of marriage. We shared a harmonious life together, blessed with a house full of children and grandchildren. After my passing, he gave me a grand funeral and, in his grief, even followed me in death. Everyone marveled at our storybook marriage, a match truly made in heaven, but only I knew that, with his dying breath. Lu Ling looked at me with utter revulsion and said, "If it weren't for you, why would Qing and I have wasted all these years? If there is a next life, I will never marry you again." When I opened my eyes again, I had returned to the year I was 22. This time, I would grant him his wish. I was smothered to death by Lu Ling's own hands. With eyes rimmed red, he walked into the hospital room, yanked out my oxygen tube, and clamped his hand tightly over my mouth and nose. I struggled instinctively for a moment, but then let my hands fall. I'm 72 this year, and illness has me in its grip. To die by my lover's hand, I suppose I have no regrets, but in my final moment, I heard Lu Ling's voice, thick with resentment. "This is all your fault. Why didn't you just die sooner? If you hadn't forced me to marry you back then, Qing and I wouldn't have wasted all these years. Now that her life has ended in misery, you will go down and join her in the grave, if there is a next life. I swear I will never marry a venomous woman like you, Qing, Qing." My eyes flew open in shock. It was my cousin, the one who was staying with us. They were actually. Lu Ling gave me no chance to ask for an explanation. In the blink of an eye, my life was snuffed out. After death, my spirit drifted in the air. I watched as Lu Ling made the arrangements for my funeral, and as our children rushed back from out of town, kneeling before my spirit tablet and weeping. On the 7th day after my passing, Lu Ling slit his wrists and died in the bathroom. He left behind only a single sentence: "With the love of my life gone, I have no wish to remain in this world alone." My daughter burst into uncontrollable sobs. "Dad, what are we supposed to do if you and Mom leave us behind?" Drifting in the air, I could only feel a bitter sense of irony. After a lifetime together, even our children believed Lu Ling's deepest love was for me. But only I knew that Lu Ling's heart belonged solely to Qing. After 50 years by his side, I had never truly found my way into his heart. The one he called his true love was none other than my own sister, Qing. A single tear fell as I clutched my chest in agony. When I looked up again, I saw the 22-year-old Lu Ling staring back at me with utter contempt. "Shenli, I could never like you. Get that through your head." My mind went blank for a moment. Looking at the resentful expression on the person before me and the letter clutched in my hand, I finally realized I had been reborn. I was reborn on the very day I confessed my feelings to Lu Ling. A circle of onlookers had gathered, eager for the drama, and one of them teased, "Come on, Lu Ling, just say yes, say yes, say yes." At these words, the disgust in Lu Ling's eyes deepened. I let out a sigh, feeling a wave of relief. "It's a good thing I didn't marry Lu Ling. There's still time to set things right." "All right," I said calmly. "I'm sorry for before. I won't bother you again." As soon as the words were spoken, the room fell silent. Even Lu Ling was taken aback. After saying that, I turned and walked away without a moment's hesitation, step by step leaving the crowd behind. A question arose from behind me. "Is it true? Does Linli really not like A Ling anymore?" Lu Ling was an educated youth who had come from the city. In my past life, I fell for him at first sight and pursued him relentlessly for 2 years, until one day he suddenly agreed to marry me. I cried tears of joy, thinking my persistence had finally paid off and that Lu Ling was finally moved by my devotion. Little did I know, he only agreed to marry me because he had learned that Qing was getting married. His true love had married someone else, so he settled for me without a second thought. After we got married, Lu Ling was a bit distant towards me, but I couldn't really find any fault with him. He handed over his salary, and his life revolved solely between the office and home. He didn't smoke or drink, and his only hobby was reading. All my friends envied me for finding such a devoted husband. With 2 sons and a daughter, my life seemed perfectly happy and complete. I used to think so too. It wasn't until my dying breath, when I saw the hatred Lu Ling had harbored for years, that I finally understood. He had never cared for me at all. All those years of toil and devotion turned into a cruel joke in that very moment. The love I was so proud of was nothing but an illusion, a fantasy I had conjured up all by myself. What's even more tragic is that after my death, he chose to die for Qing, yet still used me as a cover to hide their secret love. Since Lu Ling loves Qing so much, I'll grant him his wish in this lifetime. Back at home, Lin Qing hurried out and grabbed my arm, asking curiously, "Well, was my advice good? Did Lu Ling agree?" I lifted my eyes and looked at her quietly, saying nothing for a long moment. Lin Qing and I were about the same age. In my past life, I considered her my closest confidant, and she was the only person I told about my feelings for Lu Ling, but not long after, the whole village found out that I was in love with Lu Ling. After that, whenever I stepped outside, people would whisper and point behind my back, calling me shameless. Once, I got into a huge argument with them and ran home in tears. Lin Qing patted my back reassuringly. Ali and the others are just stuck in their old-fashioned ways. Don't pay them any mind, free love is all the rage in the city now. If you like someone, you should be brave and go after them. A little setback is nothing. Taking her words to heart, I pursued Lu Ling even more fervently, showering him with food, drinks, scarves, and gloves. Even the public confession was something Lin Qing had egged me on to do. She always encouraged me to pursue love bravely, but she never told me that Lu Ling was aloof by nature and couldn't stand such an intense, flamboyant courtship, yet it was her, somehow, who found her way into Lu Ling's heart, right under my nose. They carried on a secret affair, their feelings blossoming in the shadows, leaving me to waste a lifetime on misplaced devotion. Thinking of this, my eyes grow hot. Lin Qing grew a bit flustered under my gaze and gave my hand a little shake. Did Lu Ling agree to it? No. Lin Qing let out a barely perceptible sigh of relief. The corners of her mouth twitched upward for an instant before she quickly suppressed it, furrowing her brow as she began to protest. Oh, how could he be like that? But it's okay, Lu Ling is tall, handsome, and comes from a good family. Ali, you're from the countryside. Not very educated, and not that pretty. If you want to win him over, you'll just have to put in more effort. I noticed he seemed to really like the crispy candy you bought last time. Why don't you go buy some more tomorrow to cheer him up? It wasn't until after we were married that I found out Lu Ling never liked crispy candy at all. All the ones I'd given him before ended up in Lin Qing's mouth. Most of the things I ever gave Lu Ling eventually found their way into her hands. For the past 2 years, she's been using Lu Ling as an excuse to get things from me. At that thought, I brushed her hand away and said flatly, "No, Lin Qing, I've decided to stop liking Lu Ling." Hearing this, her voice instantly rose in pitch as she exclaimed anxiously, "What? You're giving up on him? How can you do that? You can't just quit halfway when you like someone, you have to persevere. Trust me, if you just keep at it, Lu Ling will definitely be moved by your feelings. Maybe you're not sincere enough. What about your New Year's money? I see people in the city wearing designer scarves. Go buy one for brother Lu Ling, and he'll get over his anger." She reacted so strongly, as if my not liking Lu Ling was some kind of unforgivable sin. After she finished speaking, I stared at her coldly. "I just don't like him anymore, period. You're my cousin, so why are you taking his side?" Lin Qing was instantly silenced, her lips moving wordlessly. I was only thinking of you. Fine, if you can't tell who's on your side, forget it. Don't come begging for my help chasing Lu Ling in the future. As she spoke, she actually got angry, stamped her foot, and ran off. In a past life, I would have definitely run after her to apologize, but this time I remained unmoved, with not the slightest intention of making up with her. I thought I wouldn't see Lu Ling again so soon, but to my surprise, he came to our house the very next day to propose. He was proposing to Lin Qing. At his words, my parents' eyes widened in shock. Only Lin Qing was different. Her face flushed crimson, her eyes darted about nervously, stealing glances at Lu Ling from time to time. She exclaimed in delighted surprise, "Marry me, brother Lu Ling. You really want to marry me, not my sister?" Lu Ling gave a firm nod, his gaze fixed on Lin Qing with infatuation. "Yes, I'll marry you, Qing. You are the only one in my heart. I have no desire to marry anyone but you." As the words hung in the air, Lu Ling cast a cold, indifferent glance in my direction. His gaze was filled with resentment and disdain. In that single look, I knew, he had returned as well. Lu Ling was irritable yesterday, but his eyes were clear. Today, he's noticeably much more composed. The moment she heard he was here to propose to Lin Qing, Mother asked, her voice laced with anger, "When did you and Qing'er get together? How come I didn't know anything about it? Marriage is a serious matter. Not a game. Ali has liked you for 2 years, and now you say you want to be with Qing'er. Have either of you, even considered her feelings?" To everyone's surprise, Lu Ling cut his mother off directly, his tone icy and severe. "Why should we consider her? For all these years, it's been her wishful thinking. She never once asked me if I liked it or wanted it. A grave mistake was made in the past. This time, I absolutely will not repeat it, Uncle Lin. The person I want to marry is Qing. The person I love is also Qing." Wishful thinking. My heart ached. After 50 years of marriage to Lu Ling, I raised our 2 children and kept our home in perfect order. After all these years of hard work, if not merit, he dares to call it wishful thinking. You little brat, how dare you bully my daughter, I'll tear your mouth off." Mom, being a fiery woman, was already moving to charge forward. I hurriedly stopped her. Mom, let it go, let it go. Don't get angry, he's not worth it." I stood to the side, holding mother. Father finished his cigarette in silence. He looked up at Lin Qing. "Qinger, are you willing?" Joy was evident in every line of Lin Qing's face, from the corners of her eyes to the arch of her brows. With a lingering blush on her cheeks, she nodded. "I am willing." Without another word, father turned to look at Lu Ling. Qinger lost her parents when she was around 10, on his deathbed. Her father entrusted her to my care. Now she's a grown woman, and I can't control her anymore. Since she agrees, you have my blessing. With that, Dad waved his hand dismissively. Seeing this, Lu Ling stepped forward happily, directly taking Lin Qing's hand, his voice gentle. Qing, let's go." Without giving it much thought, Lin Qing actually followed Lu Ling and left. "Once you leave, it won't be so easy to come back." Their figures vanished around the corner. Mother spat on the ground in disgust. "Shameless little tramp. Running off with a man without a shred of decency." Pa, she's right. According to proper etiquette, after Lu Ling's proposal today, the next step should be an engagement, setting a wedding date, and then marriage. It's highly improper for her to just leave with him in this ambiguous manner. A young woman's reputation is of the utmost importance. Lin Qing is digging her own grave. Lu Ling is eager to marry Lin Qing and bring her into his home. The day after Lin Qing left our house, he asked the village chief to bear witness, and they exchanged their vows under the moonlight. A few banquet tables were hastily set up in the courtyard. As part of Lin Qing's bridal party, I had come along as well. Neither of my parents looked pleased. Mother just kept poking at the tablecloth, while father sat with his head bowed, smoking. I was the only one with the leisure to prop my chin in my hand and watch them pour their hearts out to each other. At that moment, Lu Ling was gazing at her quietly, his eyes seemingly holding 1,000 unspoken words. Qing, I've let you suffer. Wait until the day I can take you home, and we'll hold a grand, splendid wedding. Then, I'll let everyone know that you are my bride." Lu Ling's bride. Lin Qing was moved to tears, weeping uncontrollably. Her tears fell in a steady drip, and she was so choked up she couldn't speak, only able to nod her head. A wave of melancholy washed over me, and I couldn't help but think of my wedding in a past life. That wedding was a grand affair. My parents spared no effort to ensure I had every bit of dignity and grace. On the day of the wedding, the sun shone brilliantly. I wore the latest style of wedding gown from the city and married Lu Ling with radiant joy. The only thing was, Lu Ling's face remained dark and stormy the entire time. The wedding was simple, yet he couldn't stop smiling. The tenderness in his eyes was almost palpable. But when I was with Lu Ling, he was distant, cold, and even somewhat impatient with me. In 50 years of marriage, he rarely showed me a kind expression. No matter how well I did, he never once praised me. So this is the difference between love and its absence. I let out a sigh. During the 7 days my spirit drifted after death, I saw Lu Ling take a wooden box from his study, filled to the brim with letters. It was only upon seeing the signature Lin Qing that I understood. My supposedly perfect husband, Lu Ling, had been carrying on a decades-long, ambiguous correspondence with Lin Qing throughout our marriage. They talked about everything, the mountains and rivers, daily life, and their core values. They even made plans to travel together. Lu Ling would go on a business trip every spring, telling me it was for work. Turns out, he was off sightseeing and having fun with Lin Qing. They traveled across most of China, visiting all the places Lin Qing had ever wanted to see. I had always wanted to climb Huangshan, but Lu Ling kept putting it off with one excuse after another. I never made it there, not even by the time I died. A wave of melancholy washed over me. When I finally snapped out of it, I noticed Lu Ling and Lin Qing had come to our table to propose a toast. Lu Ling's face was dark and stormy, refusing to spare me even a glance. Lin Qing, on the other hand, was in high spirits, beaming with a smile. "What's on your mind, sis? I called your name several times just now and you didn't hear me. Here, this toast is for you. Thank you for your generosity, sis, for giving brother Lu Ling to me." Lu Ling snorted in disdain. "Why thank her? You and I are destined to be together." I clenched my fist, picked up the wine cup, and downed it in one gulp, bottoms up. I wanted to get Lin Qing out of here quickly, but it was as if she was deliberately trying to antagonize me. "Sis, if you drink this, you have to promise me you won't come looking for brother Lu Ling anymore." "Okay, he's a married man now. I used to have feelings for brother Lu Ling, but because you were there, she bit her lower lip, looking utterly wronged. Then, a radiant smile lit up her face. Now that brother Luling and I are finally together, sister, you really shouldn't be jealous." A wave of irritation washed over me. I never expected Lin Qing to brazenly twist the truth and turn the tables on me in front of everyone. I was the one who liked Lu Ling first, and now I'm made out to be the villain who's come between them, and the worst part is, I'm terrible with words and couldn't think of anything to say in my defense. The table was buzzing with gossip. "What's going on with those two sisters? I thought Lin Li liked Lu Ling. How come Lin Qing likes him too? Isn't it obvious? Lin Qing and Lu Ling are clearly smitten with each other. Lin Li, consumed by jealousy, forbids her from seeing him." The rumors were spiraling further and further from the truth. My eyes burned with fury as I raised my voice in protest. "That's not true. You're all lying. Lin Li, what are you doing?" The next second, Lu Ling anxiously pulled Lin Qing behind him and roared at me. Tears began to fall, one after another. My heart ached with grievance. That's when Mom flipped the table. She stood in front of me, glaring coldly at the crowd. The soup and everything else on the table spilled all over the loudmouths, yet not a single person complained. My parents took me and left, leaving nothing but a mess behind. On the way home, Mom was muttering and cursing under her breath. "This is too much. That pretty boy, I knew he was no good from the start, and now he dares to treat my precious daughter like this. And that Lin Qing, I told you not to bring him home. I told you again and again, and look what happened. We raised him just to cause ourselves trouble. What a complete waste of all those years of food. Oh dear, I just feel so sorry for my poor Lily." As she spoke, Mom put her arm around my shoulder and said with deep feeling, "That pretty boy is no good. In a couple of days, I'll have someone introduce you to a man 10 times, 100 times better than him." I took Mom's hand and shook my head gently. "Mom, I'm not thinking about that for now. I've heard the college entrance exams might be reinstated in a couple of years. I want to take them." Mom froze in place, looking at me with disbelief. It was Dad, who had been quiet the whole way, who reacted quickly. "The college entrance exams. Are you sure about this?" I nodded. As soon as I finished speaking, Dad replied without hesitation, "All right, you're our only daughter. After all, you can do whatever you want." 2 weeks later, a new batch of study materials arrived at the library. I got up at the crack of dawn and walked for over an hour to get there. A crowd had already gathered at the entrance. Without a second thought, I pushed my way through, but in the end, I only managed to grab a math book. I was pretty disappointed I couldn't get an English one. Just as I was about to head to another bookstore, Lin Qing called out to me, "Huh, sis, what are you doing here?" She glanced at the math study guide in my hand and snatched it away. "How did you know brother Luling is preparing for the college entrance exams? He really needs this material. Give that back." I rushed to snatch it back, but she just spun around and trotted over to Lu Ling, handing him the documents. Lu Ling gave me a slow, deliberate look, seizing the moment. I grabbed the documents back and clutched them tightly to my chest. "I went through a lot of trouble to get these. If you want them, go buy your own." Lu Ling stood frozen in place, a slight frown creasing his brow. "If it's not for me, then why did you buy it?" His condescending attitude really rubbed me the wrong way. My tone was sharp. "What's it to you why I bought it? It's not for you. Anyway." With that, I turned and ran. So I didn't hear the conversation between the two people behind me. "Brother Luling, don't tell me Lin Li is taking the college entrance exams too." Luling denied it without a moment's hesitation. "Impossible, she's barely literate. She complains of a headache after reading just a little. There's no way she'd go take the college entrance exam. She probably bought it for me. She got upset because you were there. I'll go find her in the village later." After returning from the county town, I went to Xinyan's house first and handed the materials to him. "Here. Just bought it today. The English ones were so hard to get. I'll try again next time. Have you finished your Chinese assignment?" "All done." As he said this, he took out his Chinese materials and a black notebook, handing them both to me. "This is my math notebook. I've written down the step-by-step solutions for the major problems pretty clearly. You can use it." I accepted it happily. Xinyan is the village chief's son, 2 years younger than me, and exceptionally good at math. When I found out he was also taking the college entrance exam, I swallowed my pride and went to his house to ask for advice. Xinyan generously shared his knowledge and even made time to tutor me. So, we became great study partners, helping each other prepare for the exams. After leaving Xinyan's place, I spotted an unexpected visitor, Lu Ling. He was standing rigidly at my doorstep, wearing a pale blue shirt. He looked somewhat familiar. It wasn't until I got closer that I remembered, "Isn't that the thing I gave him ages ago? And he actually has the nerve to wear it out again." Seeing me empty-handed, Lu Ling frowned deeply. Where are the documents? I couldn't help but laugh at his sheer audacity. What's it to you? Lu Ling's face darkened, a flicker of displeasure in his eyes. Enough of this. Hand it over. I gave him a cold, appraising look, and a preposterous thought suddenly surfaced in my mind. Seriously, you actually thought I bought those materials for you? What makes you so sure of yourself? You've already married Lin Qing. There's nothing left between us. Why are you still hanging around, so eager and desperate? I gave Lu Ling a thorough tongue lashing. Far from being angry, he gave a knowing smile and said, "So you are jealous of A Qing, Linley, stop making a scene. You never read. What do you need the materials for? You just want to use them as an excuse to get my attention. I know my refusal to marry you was a heavy blow, but you don't have to go this far." I was absolutely furious. In Lu Ling's eyes, am I really that worthless? Even knowing he's married, I still throw myself at him. Or perhaps, Lu Ling has grown so accustomed to my devotion that in this new life, he instinctively assumes anything I have that could benefit him is rightfully his. Just as I was rendered speechless with rage, Lu Ling continued, his tone dripping with pity. "Not everyone is cut out for university. Even if you go to such lengths to get my attention, I won't spare you a second glance. Stop wasting your effort. For the sake of our past life as husband and wife, I'll let this go. In this life, as long as you don't disturb the happiness between A Qing and me, I won't make things difficult for you." "Who says she did it for you?" A clear voice, laced with anger, rang out. I turned to see Shen Yan striding towards me, a bag of loquats in hand, and he moved to shield me behind him. "Linley gave me the materials. We agreed to prepare for the university entrance exams together 2 months ago. It has absolutely nothing to do with you." Upon hearing this, Lu Ling's face instantly darkened. He stared fixedly at Shen Yan, his suspicious gaze darting back and forth between the two of us, but I couldn't afford to care about any of that. I lowered my head to hide my reddened eyes. For some reason, when Shen Yan appeared, I felt an inexplicable pang of grievance. My heart felt a wave of relief. It was like having a rock to lean on. With him here, I wasn't facing Lu Ling alone. Finally, I mustered my courage and shouted at Lu Ling, "These study materials are for me. I'm the one trying to get into college. I'm not doing this for you. I'm doing it for myself. Lu Ling, I stopped liking you a long time ago. Don't show your face around me anymore. You make me sick. From today on, you go your way, and I'll go mine. Get out of my sight." Lu Ling's face was a thundercloud, his eyes blazing with murderous fury, his fists were clenched, and he looked absolutely terrifying. I ducked behind Shen Yan, my heart pounding wildly in my chest. In this life and the last, Lu Ling and I had rarely argued, let alone screamed at him to get out like I did today. "Fine, perfect," Lu Ling said through gritted teeth. "Linley, you're going to regret this." After Lu Ling left, I stepped out from behind Shen Yan. "Thanks for your help just now. So, what brings you here? Is something up?" Shen Yan avoided the question. He stared at Lu Ling's retreating figure for a long time. "The whole village says you're the one shamelessly chasing after him, but from where I'm standing, it seems to be the other way around. You really can't believe everything you hear." Shen Yan shook his head and handed me the loquats he was holding. "My mom picked these loquats from the tree. She asked me to bring some over for you." I took them, thanked him, and turned to go back inside. "The loquats this season are so plump and sweet, Mrs. Shen is really kind to still be thinking of me." I thought the matter was over, but the next afternoon, as I passed the village entrance, I heard Lin Qing sobbing her heart out. She sounded utterly wronged. "I know Ollie is jealous of me, but I can't just let her spread lies. Lu Ling and I are truly in love. She's the one who insists on chasing after brother Lu Ling. I'm just a guest in her house. I don't dare to confront her, but thankfully, brother Lu Ling cares for me deeply. He married me, and now at home, he's gentle, considerate, and so very loving." As she spoke, a shy, bashful smile touched the corners of her lips. "Brother Lu Ling is currently preparing for the college entrance exams. He plans to get into a university in Beijing. He says I'll go there to live a good life with him." Amidst a chorus of envious sighs, Lin Qing laughed, utterly delighted. I curled my lip in disdain. A life of ease. No one could ever have an easy life with someone like Lu Ling. On the surface, he's neat and proper, but behind the scenes, it's all my silent sacrifices. If everyone's chasing romance and poetry, who's left to deal with the mundane chores of daily life? For a long time after that, I didn't pay them any more attention, but news about them would trickle in from time to time. Life during exam prep was full yet monotonous. In the dim lamplight, my pen danced across the page, time slipped away, and in the blink of an eye, the year was drawing to a close. My parents had begun bustling about, preparing for the New Year festivities. On this day, snow fell outside the window. I set down my pen and stepped outside. As luck would have it, I ran into Lin Qing and Lu Ling. "Brother Lu Ling, the new year is almost here. How come your family still hasn't sent you any money? How are we supposed to celebrate the new year with no money? You promised me a good life when you married me, but it's only been 6 months and we can't even afford meat. The rice jar is empty. This is worse than when I lived with the Lin family. How can you be so useless?" Lin Qing grumbled, her brow furrowed in displeasure. Her face was now etched with bitterness. Bearing no resemblance to the happy woman she had been half a year ago, I let out a laugh without a moment's hesitation. As expected, once the novelty wears off, the true substance of marriage is revealed. Lu Ling walked with his head down, silent, focused only on making his way forward. Outside, a heavy snow was falling. Lin Qing was bundled in a thick padded coat, while Lu Ling, in stark contrast, wore only a thin jacket. His exposed hands were bright red from the cold, and frostbite had begun to form on his ears. I felt a pang of disorientation. When had he ever been in such a sorry state? I remember that around this time in my past life, he and I were already married, the winters were cold, and Lu Ling spent all day studying, afraid he would freeze. I made him a cotton-padded jacket early on, bought charcoal, and even hung a thick door curtain in the inner room for extra warmth. I even bought several bed warmers. Every so often, I would fill one with hot water and bring it to Lu Ling at his desk, terrified he might catch a chill. "Linley." In the distance, Shen Yan waved and called out to me. The shout snapped me out of my reverie and caught the attention of Lin Qing and Lu Ling. Both of them turned to look at me. A look of shame crossed Lu Ling's face. He met my gaze, then quickly averted his eyes and quickened his pace. Lin Qing shot me a glare, full of resentment. Shen Yan passed by them. He frowned slightly and took a second, longer look at Lin Qing. "What's her problem? Why's she glaring at you like that?" I let out a snort of laughter and took the study materials from his hand. "You finished it all already? That was quick. Come on, come on. Come inside and sit down, it's freezing out here." On the first day of the Lunar New Year, Lu Ling burst through my door in a panic and grabbed my hand. "Ailey, Qinger has had a miscarriage. Please, you have to help her. Save her." My eyes widened in disbelief. "A miscarriage? What happened?" On the way to the hospital, Lu Ling gave a fragmented account of what had transpired. They had argued this morning. Lin Qing tried to leave home, and he rushed after her. In the ensuing struggle, she tumbled down a hillside and lay on the ground. Unable to get up for a long time, Lu Ling went to help her up, only to see a trail of blood snaking out from beneath her. It was only then that the two of them learned Lin Qing was pregnant, but the child was not meant for them. By the time they reached the hospital, it was too late to save it. At the hospital, the moment Lin Qing saw me, she hurled a cup to the ground. She snarled, "You're here to laugh at me, aren't you? Get out." "Who let her in? Get the hell out." I dodged, shot her a cold glare, and turned to leave. Lu Ling hurried over to console her. "Qinger, don't be upset, please don't be. She came to visit you. If you don't want to see her, then you don't have to. You really don't." A moment later, Lu Ling opened the door and stepped out. When he saw me, he forced a faint smile and offered a polite greeting. "How have your studies been going lately?" I replied politely, "Not too bad." After a moment, he asked again. "Math is a bit tricky, if you don't get it, Lu Ling." I interrupted impatiently. "What are you trying to do, exactly?" He lit a cigarette in gloomy silence, not uttering a word. Seeing this, I raised an eyebrow in mild surprise. Lu Ling had never smoked in his past life. Taking another look at his shabby clothes, the pieces clicked into place for me. I guess he's out of money. The main reason he came to see me was probably to borrow some. Lin Qing needs money for the hospital stay, and for her recovery afterwards, and now he shifted his focus entirely to preparing for the exams. Lu Ling's lips moved wordlessly, opening and closing several times without a sound. He had always been proud and ambitious. In our previous life, after we married, I dedicated myself completely to supporting his studies, creating the best possible conditions for him, and he lived up to the effort, gaining admission to Peking University. He was an excellent student, well regarded by his teachers, and upon graduation, he was assigned a secure, lifelong government job. His life has been smooth sailing. He's never known real hardship. Nowadays, he and Lin Qing argue constantly. Lin Qing isn't the responsible type. Not only does he shirk his duties and cut corners at work, but he's also lazy, indulgent, and gives no thought to the future. Lu Ling was studying for exams again and simply couldn't afford to support the two of them without my support behind the scenes. Lu Ling's marriage this time around was a complete mess. Serves him right, I suppose. I just watched him quietly. "Lu Ling, I'm studying for exams too. I don't have any money, go ask my parents. After she finished speaking, Lu Ling nodded, his voice slightly hoarse. I understand, thank you. He looked up, his gaze fixed on me with a complex expression. Ollie, you had a hard time in your past life, ever since I helped Lu Ling that day. He started dropping by to see me every now and then. Sometimes he'd borrow a book, other times he'd just stand quietly outside my door for a while. After a while, Lin Qing began to grow suspicious. That day, she secretly followed Lu Ling and flew into a rage upon discovering him standing behind my house. So it's you, Lu Ling. Didn't you tell me you were going to study with a friend? Is this friend you mentioned? Lin Qing, hearing the commotion. I came out of the house to find a crowd gathered at the entrance. Lin Qing was chasing Lu Ling, hitting him with a willow branch while shouting curses. I'll teach you to come here, I'll teach you. You're still hung up on her even after we're married. If she's so perfect, why didn't you marry her? Why did you marry me at all? As he ran, Lu Ling suddenly stumbled and fell right in front of me. He looked up, our eyes meeting, his gaze filled with utter humiliation. Just then, Lin Qing caught up. She fixed me with a venomous stare. You homewrecker, this is all your fault for seducing him. Lin Qing let out a furious roar and lunged at me, viciously grabbing my hair as she hurled abuse. You shameless little slut, how dare you try to seduce your own sister's husband? I'll kill you today. Enough, Lu Ling bellowed in a thunderous voice. He wrenched Lin Qing's hand away and shoved her aside. How much longer are you going to keep this up? There hasn't been a single peaceful day since I married you. Lin Qing stared at him in disbelief, her eyes brimming with sorrow. You're defending her, Lu Ling, you're actually defending her. You said you'd love only me when we got married. How could you change your heart so soon? How could you do this to me? Don't forget I carried your child. If you hadn't been so useless, would he have left us? She pushed herself up from the floor, her eyes darkening with bitter resentment. You want to leave me for her, don't you? Let me tell you, it's never going to happen. Not in this lifetime. You owe me a life. And I will never let you go. When did you get together with her? When? Tell me. What did you do with her? Lin Qing interrogated him like a madwoman. Lu Ling was growing increasingly impatient. He backhanded Lin Qing across the face. I said that's enough. Wasn't it your own fault we lost the child? Haven't I treated you well since I married you? I always let you eat first when food was scarce. I went hungry and cold myself to buy you a padded coat and scarf for the new year. What more do you want from me? Ever since I brought you into this home, you've never lifted a finger. You don't cook. You don't wash clothes. I have to do everything. I told you I'm studying for exams and need time to prepare. And you, have you ever once offered to help with the housework? You shrew, look what you've done to me. This is all your fault. The man before her, his eyes bloodshot, overlapped perfectly with his appearance from her past life. When Lu Ling smothered me with his hands, his eyes held the same seething hatred, recalling the deep affection we once shared. I couldn't help but sigh with melancholy. The love Lu Ling had cherished in his heart for 50 years has now, in less than a year, deteriorated into mutual disgust and resentment. An ethereal love may appear beautiful, but when it crashes against the hard stone of reality, it shatters into pieces, leaving nothing but a wretched mess. That night, Lu Ling got drunk. He grabbed my hand, sobbing uncontrollably, and kept apologizing. I'm sorry, I'm so sorry, Ollie, I've wronged you, it's my fault, it was all my fault from the start. My parents were completely baffled, staring at me in confusion. And I had no intention of offering any explanation. Heavy snow is falling outside the window again. It's the end of January now. Once this late cold snap passes, real spring should be on its way. Lu Ling seems to have truly realized his mistake. Every time I see him, his face is etched with unmistakable guilt, but I felt nothing inside. I've told him several times already that I don't want to see him, yet, Lu Ling stubbornly stayed by my side, and no one could drive him away. It was starting to get on my nerves. Xin Yan looked disapprovingly at the figure outside the window. Doesn't he have to study? Only now he decides to stick by you. Ridiculous. I shook my head. Just ignore him. Xin Yan fell silent, resting his chin on his hand as he frowned in deep thought. The next day, he approached me with an air of mystery. Linley, I've found a perfect spot. Lu Ling will never track us down there. Are you in? He had rented a courtyard house in the county town, under the noble pretense of preparing for the exams, and so, on a dark and stormy night, my parents and I moved into the courtyard together. Xin Yan excitedly wiped the tears from the corner of his eye. Perfect. From now until the college entrance exams, we won't be disturbed. We lived together right up until the Gaokao was over. All that hard work paid off. After 2 or 3 years of intense studying, both Xin Yan and I scored above the cutoff for university admission. That evening, My parents cooked a huge feast to celebrate. After a few drinks, Shenyan, a bit hesitantly, asked me, Linley, which city are you thinking of going to? I thought for a moment. I've always wanted to visit southern Anhui and climb Mount Huangshan. I'll go see it after I get into university. Alright, then I'll go with you. Under the lamplight, Shenyan's face flushed a deep crimson with shyness, a sweet smile playing at the corners of his mouth. His eyes were sparkling, fixed intently on me. It dawned on me belatedly, it seems Shenyan harbors some special feelings for me. My heart suddenly began to race. Flustered, I stood up and stammered, I should get going. By the time we returned to the village to hold the college celebration banquet, Lu Ling was already gone. He had someone leave a letter and a jade pendant for me. I reached out, picked up the pendant, and ran my fingers over its surface. This was the Lu family heirloom. In my past life, after learning of its existence, I begged Lu Ling for it countless times, but he refused me every single time. Yet in this life, he handed it over to me with such ease. But I no longer have any need for it. After a moment's thought, I didn't even open the letter. I just tossed both items carelessly into a corner of the cabinet. Shenyan and I went to university together in southern Anhui. During the National Day holiday, he accompanied me on a hike up Mount Huangshan. When we reached the summit, Shenyan asked, puzzled, Ollie, why are you so set on climbing Huangshan? I looked at the sun slowly rising in the distance and smiled at him. It's a dream, I suppose. Or maybe more of an obsession. The mountain Lu Ling never climbed with me. Shenyan did. It wasn't until I left Lu Ling that I realized how wonderful life could be. I discovered I didn't have to be a housewife. I realized I didn't have to bear child after child. I found I was no longer bound to wait on Lu Ling and the children hand and foot, or be consumed by household chores. Life is full of endless possibilities. Linley, your amazing life is just getting started. 4 years flew by, and 2 years after graduation, I married Shenyan. When I returned to my hometown for the new year, I saw a familiar figure at the door. Is that Lu Ling? I uttered the words hesitantly, my eyes wide as I took in the person before me. Just as he had been 6 or 7 years ago, he stood quietly in the doorway, saying nothing. He was almost unrecognizable now, with matted hair hanging over his eyes, a long, unkempt beard, a face darkened by grime, and eyes rimmed with red. His clothes were tattered and worn, making him look more like a beggar. Lu Ling suddenly grinned, revealing a set of yellowed teeth. Ali, it really is Lu Ling. I covered my mouth in disbelief. Just then, Mom came out from the yard and immediately shielded me behind her. Don't pay him any mind, he's lost it. Are you out of your mind? I learned from Mom that Lu Ling had committed a crime. After Lin Qing ran off, Lu Ling, unwilling to let it go, tracked them down in the county town and beat them both up. As it turned out, the person was a prominent figure. Furious, he had people break Lu Ling's arm and then had him sent to prison, where he served 2 years. After his release from prison, Lu Ling believed he could still make a comeback. Qing. He was too proud and arrogant, unwilling to take on menial jobs like waiting tables. Over time, he drove himself mad. Lu Ling, once the golden boy with the world at his feet, had fallen into the mud. He simply couldn't stomach such a devastating fall from grace. Human beings really are such strange creatures. Right after I was reborn, I hated Lu Ling with a burning passion, but now, seeing his wretched state, I actually felt a pang of pity. With a sigh, I pulled 200 yuan from my pocket and handed it to him. Get yourself something to eat. Lu Ling stared blankly for a long moment. He slowly shook his head, then looked up at me with a complicated expression in his eyes. Ollie, if we were given another life, would you forgive me? I did not answer him. As time passed, Lu Ling came to know the answer. He didn't take the money. Instead, he turned and walked away, step by step. That very night, he threw himself into the river, muttering incoherently all the while. Once more, just once more. Story 2, Stinky Orphan, no one loves you. He, why are you pretending to be noble? The summer sun, the noisy classroom. I returned to the high school classroom again. Tang Yao poured the dirty water in the glass bottle on Bian Yen. She was followed by several little followers. Woo, it's really stinky. A group of people laughed. Bian Yen was at a loss. He was wet all over, like a poor little animal. I just lay on the table, motionless. I'm really curious, why would a normal human being have a good impression of the opposite sex who bullies him? In fact, Bian Yen and I can be called childhood sweethearts. With no father or mother, we grew up together in an orphanage since childhood, and the tuition for school was also sponsored by the welfare home. In his previous life, because of continuous bullying, Bian Yen constantly struggled with extreme emotions of self-loathing. I was always by his side and pulled him out of the quagmire. after the college entrance examination, we went to the same university. In our junior year, we started a business together. He was responsible for the overall planning of the project, and I was responsible for external communication. It took 4 years to recruit employees, establish the company, and then achieve a turnover of over 100 million. I thought we could continue to work together like this, but Tang Yao came back. Her father's company went bankrupt. At the banquet, she cried and said to Bian Yen, "I beg you, you can ask me to do anything. I beg you to save my dad." Bian Yen looked at her coldly. "What can you give me?" Although he said this, he kept Tang Yao by his side. Not only did he invest a large sum of money in her father's company, but he also met her various willful requests. He was so good to her that it was unbelievable. I even rushed into Bian Yan's office and asked him, "Do you know what you are doing? His father's company is a bottomless pit, a pile of bad debts. You are risking our efforts for several years." He looked at me, shook his head, and said with a wry smile, "Chi Xia, you don't understand me." I really don't understand him. After he indulged Tang Yao to slap me, I decided to leave Bian Yen, but Bian Yen and I were involved in too much money, and it was difficult to divide it for a while. Especially that year there was a particularly large project that required both of us to participate, but I didn't expect that he would bring Tang Yao with him on the way to participate in that project. For the first time, I got very angry. This was a plan that I had prepared for a whole year. What was the point of him bringing Tang Yao? But Tang Yao said to him, "Bian Yen, since Sister Xia Xia doesn't like me so much, just leave her here." After being poured dirty water on Bian Yen, he subconsciously turned back to look at me. Yes, every time he was bullied, I would stand up to him and confront Tang Yao fiercely, even though I knew I was no match for her. She was a rich second generation, and she had a group of good friends around her. Everyone was a tough guy. I glanced to the side. I ignored his look for help. Yo yo yo, even Chi Xia won't help you this time. It's so funny. What should I do? Should I cry or kneel down and beg for mercy? Ha ha ha. I listened to these words without any emotional fluctuations, and even yawned. In my previous life, I became Tang Yao's target because I helped Bian Yen. If I didn't mind my own business, I could even say that I had no intersection with that group of people. Chi Xia, what's wrong with you? Why are you standing by and watching? Tang Yao saw me like this for the first time, and she didn't believe it. She walked over with her hands in her hands and knocked on my desk hard. I picked up the textbook and started flipping through it. I'm not his mother, so I have no obligation to take care of him. When he heard me say that, Bian Yen, who was standing next to me, suddenly changed his expression. His eyes were red, his palms were clenched tightly, and he whispered to me, "Xia Xia." I frowned in annoyance, pretending not to hear, and turned another page of the book. Tang Yao covered her mouth and laughed. "Really? Aren't you two childhood sweethearts, Chi Xia? If I change seats with you, would you be willing?" I hummed lightly. "It doesn't matter." Bian Yen and I were desk mates for 3 years in high school. When we were in school, Tang Yao always wanted to change seats with me and sit next to Bian Yen, but I firmly disagreed, and even when Tang Yao went to find the teacher, I made it clear that changing seats casually would affect my studies and I didn't want to be disturbed. My grades were consistently in the top 10 in the grade. And the teacher hesitated. Although Tang Yao's family was powerful, she didn't want to take risks with her students' grades, but this time, I nodded directly. "If you want to change, you can do it now." As I said this, I began to put away the exercise books on the table. "Xia Xia, what's wrong with you?" It was Bian Yen. He suddenly held my wrist, looked at me tightly, his lips trembling, and his voice was a little aggrieved. "How did I make you angry?" I sighed, then I shook off Bian Yan's hand. "Don't call me Xia Xia anymore." I walked to Tang Yao's seat with my school bag. In fact, I can guess a little bit why Tang Yao wants to change seats. A big part of the reason must be because of her deskmate, He Tingzhou. I secretly glanced at the gloomy boy sitting next to me, and didn't dare to say much. I quietly began to put the books. In my previous life, I didn't have much intersection with He Tingzhou, but I still have a deep impression of him. He came from a good family. His father was a famous real estate businessman and his mother was an artist. Originally, his life should have been smooth sailing. When he was in elementary school, he had a serious car accident, which caused his lower legs to be disabled and he could no longer stand up. From then on, he could only sit in a wheelchair. He Tingzhou was taciturn and rarely talked to people around him. Although Tang Yao was the big sister in the class, she didn't dare to offend him. My understanding of him came more from the ranking of grades after each exam. He Tingzhou's name was almost always at the front. I thought his ability plus his family background would bring him a good future, but it didn't. It wasn't until a class reunion after graduation from college that I learned that he had passed away and committed suicide by cutting his wrists. Because he couldn't stand his identity as a disabled person anymore. Chi-Xia, stand up and answer this question. I was immersed in my own thoughts, and suddenly my name was called. It turned out that I didn't know when the class bell had already rang. Physics class. The middle-aged physics teacher with a bald head stood on the podium, staring at me with a gloomy face. In my previous life, I felt that this teacher inexplicably disliked me. Maybe it's because among all the subjects, physics is my weakest. Looking at the long list of questions on the blackboard, I took a deep breath. Tried to recall the knowledge of high school, and hesitated and slowly said my own solution. That's it. The physics teacher knocked on the podium with the blackboard eraser. Chi-Xia, your level has regressed. I was speechless. It's not that my level has regressed, but that my brain has not done any questions for many years. I was embarrassed. A note was suddenly handed over to me. It was written in clear and neat handwriting. Simple and efficient methods, and answers, and my desk mate He Tingzhou still didn't raise his head. His fingers were slender, and his right hand gently turned over a page of the textbook. On that page, it was the knowledge point of this class. He was helping me out. I looked at him gratefully. After calming down, my past physics knowledge finally came back gradually, and I said the answer. He Tingzhou is worthy of being a god of learning, and he can come up with such an excellent solution in a short time. Okay, sit down. The teacher curled his lips and criticized casually. Pay attention in the future. Don't be absent-minded in class. If you want to think about the questions completely, don't forget to consider the second situation. I suddenly realized that the lonely and gloomy boy might not be as scary as he looked. He might just be sensitive and fragile. I grew up in an orphanage, surrounded by children with the same experience as me. Some of them lost both parents and relatives refused to take care of them, so they had to live here. Some were born with disabilities, blind, or had serious limb problems, and were abandoned at the door of the welfare home at birth. It is rare to grow up happily and carefree. Many are inferior and introverted. They clearly desire the care of others, but dare not take the first step out. Although He Tingzhou has a good family background, he is actually very similar to us. I want to try to be the first person to extend the olive branch. More importantly, although my high school grades have always been among the best, after so long, I have almost forgotten the basic knowledge. I urgently need someone to help me make up for it. I decided to become He Xueshen's apprentice. The next day, I took the cookies I made and put them on He Tingzhou's desk. He paused holding the pen. He raised his head and looked straight at me. I tried to show a sincere smile. He Tingzhou, thank you for helping me in physics class yesterday. This is my thank you gift. He glanced at the cookies. He asked lightly, did you make it? Yes, I still have confidence in my cooking skills. There are not many caregivers in the orphanage. From the age of 6 or 7, I have to learn to take care of myself, washing clothes, cleaning, cooking. These are all common things. Bian Yan was too thin when he was young, and his lunch was sometimes snatched away by older children. In order to prevent him from being hungry, I would sneak into the kitchen at night to see if there is any food that can be cooked. Biscuit snacks. That's when I learned to make them. He picked up one at random and put it in his mouth. Is it okay? I asked nervously. He Tingzhou did not comment. He tapped the table with his right index finger, as if he could see my inner thoughts. You are a little weak in electromagnetism. I nodded quickly. He gently pushed a workbook over and turned to the middle. From here on, you should focus on the questions I marked. In this way, I successfully narrowed the distance between me and He Tingzhou with a box of biscuits. Later, I often brought some snacks. It was not expensive, and I almost made them myself when I got up in the morning. He and I have similar habits. We both like to sort out knowledge points in the early morning. During the break after morning self-study, when I was studying the questions in He Tingzhou's workbook, a panicked shout suddenly came from the 2 rows in front of me. It was Bian Yan's voice. Because it was too sudden, I subconsciously looked up in that direction. Almost all the students in the class were attracted by their eyes, and those who were far away even raised half of their bodies and looked at them curiously. Bian Yan stood up from his seat. His face was pale, and his lips kept moving. There was a piece of plasticine with red spots on the table. If you look closely, you will find that there are several sharp jagged things coming out of it. It's like someone cut a blade into sharp pieces and stuffed them in. Oh my god, blood, bleeding. The girl next to the aisle shouted. I only then noticed that there was an obvious wound on Bian Yan's hand hanging by his side, and blood was dripping onto the ground. You haven't held on for 10 seconds yet. Why did you let go? Tangya rolled her eyes. and she poked Bien Yan's belly with a ruler. You lose this game. Bien Yan lowered his head and said in a low voice, I didn't know there was a knife in the rubber. Please don't play such a dangerous game. What a bummer. Tang Yao's face drooped. She took back the ruler and threw it hard on the table. With a snap, the ruler made a crisp sound and bounced onto the chair in front. After watching for a while, many people already understood what happened. It was nothing more than that the eldest lady was bored today and came up with a new trick to tease the vulnerable civilians. Yao Yao, the poor guy was scared to death by you today. He seems to be about to cry. Several of her good friends came over and whispered in her ear. Tang Yao snorted and tilted her head to look at Bien Yan. He just sat down, and the whole person seemed to be in a daze. Hey, are you really going to cry? Tang Yao suddenly pushed him hard. Well, let me take you to the school hospital to see. Don't get infected. Huh. Bien Yan looked up blankly. I was copying a big question on the blackboard and happened to meet his eyes. He shook his head. No, I can handle it myself. In his previous life, Bien Yan was always behind me. This is the first time I have observed his and Tang Yao's way of getting along so intuitively. Gives people a very strange feeling. Tang Yao is quite powerful. He Tingzhou threw a folded paper crane into the glass bottle, slap a slap and then give a sweet date. What a kind of mental control. I found out on the first day I sat here that he actually had a hobby like origami, which was not in line with his aloof personality. Constant physical torture and verbal abuse. When you are on the verge of despair and can't stand it, touch your head and comfort you a little. You will be grateful and feel guilty for all your struggles and resistance before. You may even feel a kind of illusory touch. Ah, she is so good to me. Is that so? My mind was in a mess, and I kept poking the rough paper with the tip of the pen. I didn't even notice that Bien Yan walked to my side. Xia xia. He stood by my desk. His shadow fell on the page of my book. My hand is broken. Can you bandage it for me, please? If it were before, I would have taken his hand and taken out alcohol and gauze without him saying it. No, maybe I won't allow him to get hurt at all. I will grab Tang Yao's collar, press her to the ground, and tell her, want to play games? I'll play with you. But now, I know that some people are not worth your efforts. The teacher in the infirmary is available 24 hours a day. I think you should know where it is. I said indifferently, and continued to focus on the half-finished questions at hand. But Bien Yan pulled a forced smile on his lips, and this time he put his hand directly on my desk. Xia xia. It really hurts. It can be seen that the wound on the hand is very deep. The blood is still oozing out, even flowing onto my desk. I was really a little irritated. I don't know if I was too good to Bien Yan before, which led him to develop the habit of relying on me. Take your hand off. It's dirty. He Tingzhou raised his head from the textbook and suddenly interrupted. He took a few tissues and threw them over. Wipe it quickly. If you want to play those stupid games, don't mess up other people's tables. The air was stagnant for a moment. It must be said that He Tingzhou knows how to kill people and destroy their hearts. Bien Yan slowly suppressed the smile at the corners of his lips, and his back straightened up little by little. He really picked up the tissue thrown by He Tingzhou, held it with his slender fingers, and wiped his wound vigorously. Some scraps of paper were stuck to the epidermis, and it hurt to look at it. In fact, he is a little arrogant in his bones. Let's change seats. He looked straight into He Tingzhou's eyes. Qi Xia and I have always sat at the same table. There is no need to separate. Oh, so what? He Tingzhou smiled. It has nothing to do with me. I like this position very much and don't want to move at all. Besides, why don't you ask Qi Xia if she is willing to sit with you? He Tingzhou took out another piece of paper from his metal box and began to fold paper cranes nonchalantly. The question was thrown to me, but Bien Yan didn't ask me, as if he was afraid to know the answer from me. Fortunately, the class bell rang. The head teacher came in with a pile of papers. She glanced at Bien Yan and exclaimed, "Oh my God, what's going on?" Because of the teacher's intervention, the faintly turbulent atmosphere in the class finally stopped. This wound is obviously caused by a sharp weapon. The head teacher walked over, grabbed Bien Yan's wrist, frowned, and said in a serious tone, "How can you do such a dangerous thing in the classroom? Tell me, what is this? What happened?" I guess he would never say Tang Yao's name. Sure enough, Bien Yan bit his lip and never said a word. The head teacher was obviously not satisfied with this answer. She casually pointed to a student with her head down. "Tell me, what happened during the break last class?" The girl lowered her head, hesitating for a long time, and finally said, "I went to the toilet. I don't know." No one wanted to offend Tang Yao. The teacher sighed and showed a helpless expression. She asked the class monitor to follow Bien Yan to the infirmary before starting the class, a few days after this incident. Tang Yao and Bian Yen had a period of peace. It seemed that everything was over. It happened to be the midterm exam, and I was busy preparing for it and had no time to pay attention to the two of them, and He Tingzhou and I seemed to have more and more common topics. I was surprised to find that when I was in elementary school, I even went to the rich area where He Tingzhou was. At that time, a wealthy businessman donated a huge sum of money to us. He was very old and childless. His only wish was to have a child who could visit him often. In the year before he died, we went there almost every month. Sometimes we sang songs and talked to him, and sometimes we just sat there quietly and listened to him talk about the past. When I learned about this coincidence, I was pushing He Tingzhou's wheelchair through the corridor, from the initial indifference and alienation, to now tacitly allowing me to take him up and down the school. When he was in a good mood, he would let me push him to sprint quickly on the playground. Our relationship was improving rapidly. I couldn't help but raise my voice and asked, He Tingzhou, in fact, we may have met before. He ignored me, although I said that, I think that even if we had met before, after so many years, we must not remember it. Just walked to the corner of the stairs. I was about to push him over, but suddenly heard the voices of Tang Yao and her good girlfriends. First, her little follower complained dissatisfiedly, Yao Yao, your dad hasn't scolded you these days, has he? I've long disliked that woman who teaches in class. It's no big deal, but she even called the parents. It must be that bitch Bian Yen who complained. Tang Yao stamped her feet and snorted. I was too nice to him a few days ago, so he got cocky and went to He Tingzhou to change seats. I must teach him a lesson. After saying these words, Tang Yao slapped the door of the classroom next to her. The iron door squeaked, and it was locked. Let's go, don't worry about it, someone said. After these people left the front stairs with laughter, I pushed He Tingzhou out. That classroom was a warehouse. The dark green painted door was full of abandoned equipment and teaching aids, and it was only opened once every few months. There were no windows, and it was dark and gloomy. I looked at the backs of Tang Yao and the others as they left, and I always felt that this matter was a bit strange. According to what they said, the head teacher should have called Tang Yao's parents when Bian Yen was cut by a knife, and these people suspected that it was Bian Yen who reported it. Although the facts are almost certain not what they think, given their personalities, they will definitely take revenge. I looked at this warehouse. Could it be that Bian Yen was locked up in there? In fact, what happened to Bian Yen has nothing to do with me. But I suddenly remembered that this person should have claustrophobia. Bian Yen was sent to the welfare home by the police. At that time, he was very young, about 4 or 5 years old. The neighbor called the police and said that there was a foul smell in his house. The police rushed over and found that both his parents committed suicide at home. He was a small ball, hiding in the closet, and he hid there for several days. If it weren't for a careful female police officer who opened the closet door, he might have been ignored. When Bian Yen was carried out by the female police officer, he had wounds all over his body, belts, stools, and nails that were stuck in the skin and twisted out. The neighbor stood at the door, covering his nose with his hands, and said with disgust, the couple is sick, they quarrel every day. After the quarrel, they beat the child when they are in a bad mood. I hear the child crying at night. It's so annoying. I thought they would take their son to death, but I didn't expect that they still have a conscience and know to save the child's life. Bian Yen introduced himself at the welfare home for the first time. He said, my name is Bian Yen. A child stood up and laughed. How can you have such a strange name? Your parents must hate you. Bian Yan's eyes wandered around in panic. He later said to me, Xia Xia, I envy you so much. Your parents died to save people. My parents always beat me. Sometimes when they don't want to beat me, my mother will lock me in the closet for a long time and let me out when she remembers. But I am so afraid of the dark. No matter how many times I said I was afraid, she didn't believe me. Xia Xia, I really hope my parents love me. What did I say at that time? I held Bian Yan's wrist. I said, don't be afraid, I won't let anyone bully you anymore. I raised my hand and knocked on the door of the warehouse. Bian Yan was locked in a dark and closed room, often anxious, suffocated, and even self-harming. I just wanted to turn my head to listen to the movement inside, and my sleeve was suddenly pulled. He Tingzhou next to me frowned, with a bad expression. Qi Xia, I don't feel well. I bent down and asked, what's wrong? He covered his abdomen. Stomachache. If He Tingzhou really had something wrong, it would be difficult for me to handle it alone. I hurriedly pushed him to the infirmary, rushing all the way, and shouted as soon as I entered the door, teacher, there is a student here who is not feeling well. The medical teacher in a white coat came out from the inner room. He saw He Tingzhou and exclaimed, oh, isn't this classmate he? I was stunned, thinking that He Tingzhou is really a frequent visitor to the infirmary. What happened today? The teacher washed his hands, took the wheelchair from my hand, and pushed it into the inner room. He glanced at me and nodded at me. Are you his classmate? Wait here. I agreed and sat on the bed in the outer room. The inside and outside were separated by a curtain. Although I couldn't see, I could hear some of the voices. After a while, the voice of the medical teacher came out. No problem. Have you eaten on time these days? It's okay. Just remember to go to the hospital for a physical examination every once in a while. Call me if you feel uncomfortable. Soon, the doctor pushed He Tingzhou out as it was. He lowered his head and couldn't see his expression clearly. I muttered in my heart, is there anything wrong with He Tingzhou's body? If he didn't feel uncomfortable just now, why did he drag me to the infirmary? I was thinking about it in my mind and didn't speak for a long time. It was He Tingzhou who broke the silence first. He coughed twice and looked up at me. Qi Xia, I have something for you. What? It was physical education class. Most of the students were free on the playground. He Tingzhou and I sneaked out. I wanted to pull the god of learning out to teach me 2 more questions, but I didn't expect to meet Tang Yao and her group. The plan was disrupted. I tilted my head and asked him, gift, for me. He Tingzhou nodded gently. In the classroom, I thought it was because I often brought small cookies in the morning, and he gave me some corresponding small things in return, but it wasn't. He took out a glass bottle from the hole in the table. It contained thousands of paper cranes he had been folding. There were probably hundreds of them in various colors. I was stunned and speechless for a moment, and asked a very inappropriate question. He Tingzhou, why do you have such a strange hobby? After saying it, I felt that I was really rude. What's this? Someone gave you something, but you didn't take it and say thank you right away, and you're still talking nonsense. I blushed and shook my hand in panic. No, I don't mean that. But He Tingzhou was not angry. He looked at me seriously and smiled. Qi Xia, you gave me my first paper crane. His expression didn't look like a joke at all. 10 years ago, he opened the jar, took out one and put it in my hand. Do you remember? 10 years ago. It turned out that I had really met He Tingzhou that year when I visited the rich businessman with the caregiver of the welfare home. My memories came back to me in an instant. At that time, I occasionally saw a little boy sitting alone in a wheelchair. His home was not far from the rich businessman, and there was a beautiful garden. He was often in the garden, with a thin blanket covering his legs, looking out quietly. There are also many disabled children in the welfare home, and we are often used to it, but his eyes looked particularly lonely and sad. The last time I left, I took out 1,000 paper cranes from my school bag. I made it at the merchant grandfather's house when I was bored. Using the colored cardboard on the cabinet, I ran over, reached in through the railing outside the garden, and handed it over. Here, it's for you. He didn't say anything, just looked at me. The old man said. I pointed to the house of the rich businessman next door. 1,000 paper cranes can take people to the sky, and I'll give you 1,000 paper cranes to fly out of this garden and take a look. I took this small origami. So the 1,000 paper cranes from 10 years ago, after going around in circles, returned to my hands. I've been waiting for you to come back, He Tingzhou whispered. He tapped the glass jar gently, then I started to fold paper. You would come on weekends at that time, and I would fold one on weekends, just like a poor child making a wish, but you never showed up again. I sat down. For a moment, I even felt guilty. I didn't know that my small action at that time would have such a big impact on He Tingzhou. He looked up at the sky outside the window, as if recalling the past. I broke my leg because of an accident at that time, and I was gloomy. My family is very rich, and I have the best doctors to treat me. My parents still seem to love me, but I know that I will never be the same as ordinary people. When you came, my mother was just pregnant. She smiled and asked me, Tingzhou, are you happy that you are going to have a younger brother? I am not happy. I feel abandoned, but I can't say it. If I say it out loud, everyone will think I am willful and selfish. So, Qi Xia, when you said that the 1,000 paper cranes could take me away, I really wanted to go with you. At this time, He Tingzhou really showed his fragile and sensitive side for the first time, afraid of being abandoned, afraid of being treated as an alien. I took a deep breath and finally said, He Tingzhou, no one will abandon you this time. He tilted his head, and a somewhat confusing smile appeared at the corner of his mouth. Really, even if Bian Yan came, you would still choose me. I was a little confused. Why do you compare yourself with that guy? I have nothing to do with him. Well, Qi Xia, he is not worth it. He Tingzhou stretched out his hand and held my fingers. Occasionally, I would think, since He Tingzhou knew me so early, why didn't he mention it to me at all in the previous life? At that time, we were like 2 parallel lines, moving straight in one direction, but without any intersection. A long time later, when we had entered college, he took over the business of an important department of his father's company, and I was going to continue my postgraduate studies. On weekends, the two of us went to a coffee shop for a date. I was chewing on the formulas in the professional course textbook, and this guy came over and had to play with my hair. I suddenly thought of something. Tingzhou, if I hadn't sat next to you in high school, wouldn't we have parted ways? He shook his head and said arrogantly, I will write you a love letter. When you see it, you will definitely be moved to tears by the fate between us. I patted his head. Tisk. I just took this as a casual remark. After all, I had never seen any love letters in my previous life. I closed the lid of the paper crane jar and put it in my backpack. After a while, the bell for the end of physical education class rang. Students returned to the classroom one after another. Tang Yao and her good friends were also there. They were laughing and looked very happy. There were 2 self-study classes in the afternoon before school was over. There were often students who didn't attend these 2 classes and packed up their things to go home in advance. If there was no teacher's supervision, the classroom might be 1/3 empty, and this time, Bian Yen was not there either. Until the next morning, Bian Yen still did not show up. The class teacher's class was the second period. She glanced at the classroom and quickly found that some students were absent. Bian Yen asked for leave. She called the monitor out. The monitor shook his head. Obviously not knowing all this, because of Bian Yan's special situation, there was no way to call his parents. If he wanted to contact his guardian, he could only call the welfare home. Although it was very troublesome, it seemed to be the only way at present. The scene of seeing Tang Yao and the others in front of the warehouse door yesterday appeared in my mind. I didn't expect that they dared to play so big and locked Bian Yan in the warehouse for so long. If things were delayed any further, it would be serious. Teacher, I seemed to hear some noise in the warehouse yesterday. I raised my hand and stood up. Warehouse. The class teacher was stunned, and then quickly understood something. She casually pointed at a few people. Monitor, Qixia, come with me. After thinking for a while, she pointed at Tang Yao again. You come too. After the guard arrived with the key, the warehouse was immediately opened. It was pitch black inside, and the air smelled like rusty iron, damp. There were all kinds of unused sports equipment everywhere on the ground, and you had to be careful not to trip every step you took. The security guard studied the wall outside the corridor for a long time before finally finding the light switch. The moment the light came on, it was so dazzling that it almost made people close their eyes. Isn't that Bian Yan? Someone suddenly shouted. Oh my god, what happened to him? Who will call 120? Bian Yan huddled in a cabinet in the corner, hugging his body tightly with his arms. Next to his feet was a hard iron piece that had fallen from some equipment. His arms were covered with deep blood marks from the hard piece. He slowly raised his head, revealing wet eyes, but there was no light in his eyes. He murmured softly, Dad, Mom, Xia. I'm afraid, Xia. Bian Yan saw me at first sight. He stood up tremblingly, walked through the crowd, walked in front of me, and hugged me tightly. Xia, I know you will definitely come. You will definitely come to find me. His voice was full of grievance, confusion, and cautious dependence. You said that you would never leave me. He stretched out his arm, revealing those deep and shallow wounds. It hurts, but I told myself that you won't leave me. It will take some time for the ambulance to come. When the head teacher saw the student like this, the anxious mood just now was replaced by anger. Who is responsible for this prank? If no one says anything, check the surveillance. This kind of atmosphere in the class has been going on for more than 1 or 2 days, and it's time to treat it. After that, she left the warehouse angrily and asked the security guard to take her to the monitoring room, and wait until the doctor came and let the monitor notify her. Fuck, so cheap, you are good at snitching. Huh, little, white, flower. Tang Yao hugged her arms, leaned against the wall, and looked at us coldly. I pushed Bian Yan away and looked at her. What do you mean? Don't you understand what I mean? Didn't you tell the head teacher in class just now? You want to make trouble for me, right? If I really get punished, none of you can escape or have a good life. Ha, she teased Bian Yan some time ago, and I didn't want to care anymore. But today she came over to make trouble again. Why should I bear it? I was about to walk over and argue with her. Bian Yan suddenly blocked me. Tang Yao, you were the one who locked me in the warehouse. It's unreasonable for you to say that to Qixia. In this life and the last, this is the first time he has fought with Tang Yao for me. Tang Yao obviously had the same reaction as me, and I didn't expect it. After a short moment of stunned, she was obviously very unhappy, raised her hand, and slapped Bian Yan in the face. What's wrong with Qixia? I can say whatever I want to her. What are you talking about here, Bien Yen? You are very funny, do you like her? Seeing that the situation was out of control, the class monitor jumped over to separate them. What are you doing? We are all classmates, talk it out. Tang Yao, don't be impulsive. Bien Yen, you too, just apologize. Unfortunately, our class monitor has always been known for being a softie. His pale words were not enough to calm such chaos. Tang Yao grabbed Bien Yan's collar, and said word by word, as if she was mocking him. Little orphan, I advise you to give up this idea. Your Xia doesn't want you at all. She has been with the cripple He Tingzhou in the class for a long time. Although she is disabled, her family is rich and she is also a good student. What do you have, apart from your appearance? Ask yourself, what do you, a stinky orphan without a father or a mother, have? Shut up. Bien Yan's face suddenly became extremely ugly. He showed a panic expression, but he didn't dare to look at me. He just held Tang Yao tightly and kept repeating, shut up. I want you to shut up. I don't you know, they didn't have physical education class yesterday afternoon. They sneaked into the classroom. Who knows what they were doing? Someone saw them holding hands after school. Your Xia was so happy. Bien Yen suddenly became extremely manic. Maybe he had just been in a closed and dark environment for a long time, and the feeling of anxiety had not left him at all. He suddenly grabbed Tang Yao's neck and roared in a low voice. I want you to stop talking, don't you understand? At this moment, he didn't look like the fragile and pitiful student in high school who was bullied by others. He was more like the leader who was decisive and swift in the business world. I immediately had a bad feeling. I hurriedly went up to grab Bien Yan's arm, but it was too late. He pushed Tang Yao to the railing. His eyes were red, and his voice was trembling. You are the bitch who allowed you to spread rumors. Tang Yao was also scared at this time, but she was used to being willful and conceited, but she was unforgiving. What do you mean by spreading rumors? It was originally, maybe the two of them kissed each other, she shouted and struggled. But before she finished speaking, Bien Yen grabbed Tang Yao's neck and exerted force suddenly. The two of them were wrestling, and suddenly, Bien Yen turned over, dragging Tang Yao and falling out of the corridor. The squad leader and I rushed to the railing. 6 floors. 2 people fell down entangled like this. There were panic shouts all around. Someone committed suicide, someone's dead. I ran down frantically until I got closer and closer. So close that the blood under Bien Yen seemed to spread to my feet. The ambulance finally came. Unfortunately, it was too late. When the medical staff got off the ambulance, they seemed to be a little confused about the situation. Didn't you say claustrophobia? What's going on now? Get out of the way, get out of the way. Why are there still 2 people? I slowly backed away. The crowd gradually submerged me. Someone held my hand. Very warm. Xia, are you okay? I turned around and it was He Tingzhou. He looked at me quietly, my throat choked. After a long time, I finally said, He Tingzhou, they are both dead, he said, but I will accompany you in the future, always and forever. The sky was very blue that day, and I saw the only me in He Tingzhou's eyes. I was a little confused and at a loss. Later, at certain moments, I would occasionally think of Bien Yen. What kind of mood did he have when he pushed Tang Yao down the stairs? Was it resentment, helplessness, or fear? But no matter what the truth is, my life really has nothing to do with him. I love the one who loves me wholeheartedly and only has me in his heart. Extra Bien Yen. I can't contact Xia. WeChat is not replied. The phone is not connected. This is the first time. For a moment, I wondered if she was still angry because I took Tang Yao to the entrepreneurship conference. But I thought Xia was unreasonable. She should know that Tang Yao has no ability and needs some impressive resumes to gild. Until the end of a meeting, I received a call. I felt unreasonably irritated the whole day. Tang Yao was making coffee next to me, and I pressed the hands-free button. Hello, Mr. Bien, this is the police station. A few days ago, we handled a traffic accident at the provincial highway exit. A young woman was killed. I wonder if you know her. My temples were throbbing. Tang Yao put the coffee next to me. The damn policeman continued, because she has no parents or relatives. We found that you are the friend she contacts most. Regarding Xia's funeral, would it be convenient for you to come over? I threw the phone away. Asshole, what are you talking about? The phone was hung up with a beeping sound. Liar. Tang Yao hugged her arms, leaned against the wall, and looked at me coldly. Didn't you watch the news, a few days ago, on the highway where we were going to the meeting? A bus lost control and hit a woman to death. For the first time, I felt that Tang Yao was so hateful, and suddenly interrupted her. Get out. She looked at me in disbelief. What did you say? I repeated. Get out of here. Okay, you said it yourself. Bien Yen, don't beg me to come back. Qixia couldn't be dead. A long time ago, when she was in the orphanage, she told me that she would not abandon me. So when I went to the police station and saw her body, I still refused to believe it. I clenched my palms tightly. I realized that I was actually afraid of the truth. I was even trembling with fear. Sign it. The policeman's voice was cold and official. My voice was hoarse. What I actually wanted to ask was whether she said anything before she died, but I knew that there would be no such thing, and there would not be a single word about me. Since then, I found that my mood was becoming more and more unstable. I became irritable and angry, and often fell into waves of emptiness and confusion. I returned to the orphanage. I donated a large sum of money there, and the director treated me like a big shot. Mr. Bien, our caregivers here often talk about you to the children, saying that they want to take you as an example. I looked at these children. They were just like me back then, small and pitiful, but I didn't feel close to them, and even felt a little bored. I said, I want to go around the park by myself. The director didn't doubt him, just thought I missed my childhood. I walked alone and came to the dormitory area. The children were taken to activities by the caregivers, and now it was empty. I pushed open the door and saw the room where Qixia had lived. Her things were of course gone, but I always felt that I could still see traces of her existence. For example, the small single bed, the model bedside table, and the wooden wardrobe. I closed my eyes and recalled the scene when I was a child. Every night, I came here excitedly to find her. I vaguely felt that she seemed to be here, sitting at the head of the bed waiting for me. My xia xia, my xia xia. I opened the closet and hid in it. Will my xia xia come to find me? 2 days later, my assistant found me. He couldn't contact me, and the phone was unreachable. In desperation, he drove to the orphanage. The director thought I had left without saying goodbye. As a result, they checked the surveillance and found that I was hiding in a child's closet. Everyone was shocked at the time. I could no longer hide the problem of my unstable mental condition. The company hired a famous psychiatrist for me. She was an expert who was about to retire. She spoke in a gentle and pleasant voice, and guided me to tell the past little by little. So, you put Qixia on the highway yourself, right? Yes. I closed my eyes. My mind was like being hit by a heavy hammer. Tang Yao even reminded me that there was no camera in that place. No one would see it. My heart was filled with regret and pain like waves. I wanted to go back to the past, to change everything, but the doctor still didn't blame me at all. She just asked, have you ever thought about why you are so tolerant of Tang Yao? She bullied you, humiliated you, and looked down on you. Do you really like her? I shook my head. I couldn't answer this question. After a long time, I said, I just hope she treats me better. Maybe you just put your feelings for others on her. The doctor poured me a glass of warm water. When you were a child, the lack of love from your father and mother made you always feel that a piece of your life was missing. Maybe the appearance of Tang Yao just reminded you of the darkest experience at that time. She made your life so bleak, but sometimes she also gave you a little sweetness. It is this little kindness that is not worth saying to ordinary people. Under the pain she gave, it will be infinitely magnified. But you forgot. The girl who has always been with you, helped you grow, and never hurt you. Bien Yen, you have to learn to love, don't be PUA. I went to the villa and found that Tang Yao was back. She was sitting on the sofa carelessly. When she saw me come in, she stood up and hugged my neck. Bien Yen, you are back. I heard you went to the hospital. What is missing from the villa? I pushed her away. Where are Qixia's things? I scolded. She didn't care. Why keep a dead person's things? How unlucky. I was almost mad. That was my only remaining memory of Qixia, and she actually threw it away. I shivered and slapped Tang Yao. She stared at me with wide eyes. Slowly, her lips curled up and revealed a weird smile. Bien Yen, you are so disgusting. Do you know what I found in your desk today? The love letter that He Tingzhou wrote to Qixia when he was in high school. It turns out that they knew each other in elementary school. If it weren't for you, Qixia might have been with He Tingzhou a long time ago. It was you who withheld He Tingzhou's love letter, making him think that Qixia didn't remember him at all and didn't like him. If the two of them were together, would Qixia still die? Tang Yao always hits my soft spot so accurately. Yes, in the final analysis, it was me who killed Qixia. Tang Yao approached me step by step. Her hand slowly touched my face, then stopped at my throat and gently strangled it. Actually, Bien Yen and I can be called childhood sweethearts. I love you most. Your xia xia is pure and innocent. Let her go to heaven. She stood on tiptoe, as if she wanted to kiss me. Yes, such a vicious, scheming, and lustful person. We should die together. I opened the desk drawer and took out a pistol. At a banquet, a senior executive of the opposite company wanted to insult Qixia. And I picked up a bottle of wine and hit him on the head, but I still couldn't rest assured, so I bought a gun, in case something like this happened again. I hope Chi Xiao won't be hurt at all. Tang Yao, no one will like you, a despicable and cruel woman like you. I put the gun against her chest and pulled the trigger. She looked at me in disbelief. Blood flowed all over me. The last bullet, I kept it for myself.